You've heard about Web 1.0, Web 2, Web 3. Well, Web 3 is taking the world by storm right now, and we're going to give you a special treat with an interview with Gina Carr. Well, I got a chance to talk with her about a recent presentation she did, and it's going to give you the skills and the knowledge of Web 3.0 and what you need to know.
Welcome to Agorapreneurs, standing for liberty and freedom, all done peacefully. Now, here is your guide, Terry Brock.
Hi, I'm Terry Brock, your guide here at Agorapreneurs, where we talk about living the life of freedom and liberty as an entrepreneur. As a matter of fact, we couple that with live and let live, that you live your life doing whatever you want to do, have a good time, and do it peacefully and voluntarily. That's how things are done in the real world, and that's where you're going to get maximum juice for what you do. And a big factor of Web 3.0 is living peacefully, decentralized. We're going to talk about that in this interview that I had with Gina. She just did a recent presentation at Harvard Business School for a reunion. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you some detail. This is a little bit longer video than we normally cover. And we're going to go in depth on answering your questions, how this works, what it is all about to clear up some of those mistakes. So let's have some fun. Get your pen and paper or your note-taking device of choice ready to go as we get a chance to talk about Web 3 with Gina. The world of Web 3 is taking us by storm. A lot of good coming from that, and there's a lot there that can be a little bit confusing, but when you find the right person, you can make sure you get it cleared up real easily. And we've got the right person joining us today, because joining me right now is our one and only Gina Carr, my fiance, my business partner, and a wonderful, brilliant lady in Web 3. Gina, welcome aboard.
Well, thank you so much, Terry. Delighted to be here to share information about Web3, which I know you and I are both very excited about the possibilities that it presents for us as business owners, as well as in our personal lives.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And matter of fact, you had the opportunity to do something special for the Harvard Business School reunion. Every 5 years, Harvard does a reunion, get together. Well, had some delays because of COVID and all that. And so you stepped in and made it work for a very special presentation where they had several thousand people coming in to campus, right there on campus. And you get a chance to hear people, and they can use the auditoriums and the classrooms, and you get professors speaking and others. And Gina, you headed up a special presentation. You were there, and you were the hit, because everyone raved about what you said about Web 3.0. And so what I've done, everyone, is I have twisted her arm just a little bit, not a whole lot, just a little bit, and asked her to share that with you, because it was really fabulous. And we're just kind of talk through the slides on that. So Gina, I appreciate you agreeing to that. You got your slides there all ready to go, huh?
All ready to go.
Very good. Well, and I've given you permission now. You're co-host, so that means you could share your screen. So we'll let you go in. You're using Keynote now, so you can use that view in window thingy that's there in Keynote. Kind of a handy little feature. And I'll let you just share away here on the screen. Can we say that? Is that legal to say? Yeah. Share away with your screen on Web 3.0 and kind of show us that presentation you recently did at Harvard Business School for your class reunion.
Okay. Well, let's get started right here. Excuse me.
And there it is, some of the people that were there. I remember seeing Keith Ferrazzi, who wrote the book Never Eat Alone. He did a special session with Scott Cook, who is the CEO of Intuit, with Quicken and those kind of things, both Harvard graduates. I think they did a pretty good job. What do you think, Gina?
I think they did a very good job. It was quite entertaining, and I was delighted that some of our other classmates were able to speak as well. So it was very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, tell us a little bit about that Web 3.0 and what you did. And I'll jump in every so often for what do they call it? Color commentator or something like that? Is that it?
Yes, that's a good way to look at it. Absolutely.
Yep, and I'll jump in here because go back there, picture. There we go. Gina Carr, MBA 1990s in Section D. D is in Delta. You can get in touch with her, ginacarr.com, gina@ginacarr.com, and she's got the HBS alumni right there. So, Gina, I'll let you take it from here.
I noticed that website is not correct. It's ginacarr.com. How did I get my own website wrong? That's interesting.
And you sent that out to all those poor Harvard grads are going to be wondering how to get in touch with you.
Okay. All right. So moving on. Let's think about, I want to take you back in time and think about medieval times. So medieval times and life. People there had, the common person had very few choices in life. Essentially, whatever they were born into, that their family did, is what they did without really any thought or dreams of doing something different. That's the only life that they knew. Their parents and parents and parents and parents of those were farmers, so they're going to be a farmer. Same with blacksmiths and different types of activities. So very little money was around and very little activities. So, but that all changed basically because two new technologies converged. And those two new technologies were the invention of the financial ledger. And the financial ledger enabled people to keep track of money between one another in a much easier fashion than what they did before. And in particular, this enabled people who had a little bit of means. Let's say they weren't quite royalty. Royalty were the ones who controlled most of the money, but these were the wealthier lords and that sort of person who were able to make small loans to, say, the peasant that wanted to open a store or expand the farm or something like that. And so that did increase the money circulation amongst common people. That was incredibly important to start people off on entrepreneurship. It was critical in the key to entrepreneurship. And Terry, you just jump in at any time when you would like to share something here.
Yeah, sure. I think that's very important. So we got that, and they had those. So that was good.
Okay. And then the other technology that was critically important at that time was the creation of the Gutenberg press. Now, thinking back to the peasants, they didn't know how to write or read, and books were very rare. But with the creation of the Gutenberg press, which was relatively easy to move around and to create for different people to open their own press and create their own press, this enabled books to be widely distributed. Many people now learn to read, and so ideas were crystallized and spread around, when before it was just you sit around the fire and that's how the stories get told. And so this really enabled the the ideas to be spread, and was also critically important to the time. So these two important technologies. Terry, anything you'd like to add on that?
I just think those were very important.
Okay. Then along comes the Renaissance, and those two inventions were critically important to bring about the Renaissance of people feeling like they wanted to be more in charge of their own lives, and they didn't have to follow the royalty. They didn't have to be in alignment. They had more freedom over their lives. So that was the Renaissance. And what I would like to suggest is that we are in a Renaissance now, and a Renaissance of technology, and a Renaissance of our way of life, because it's being severely disrupted, our lives, in good and bad ways, with Web3. And these ideas were shared by a fellow, Dr. Josh Rosenthal, and he talks about that a Renaissance is a rebirth of culture in which communities employ distributed technology. So this is who I got this idea from, and I thought it was so powerful that I wanted to share it. And what he says is that today's Gutenberg press is Web 3. So Web 3, where we're able to engage and build upon aspects of the internet easily. And so that's essentially the Web 3. And then today's financial ledger is essentially cryptocurrency and the blockchain. So cryptocurrency is only one aspect of the blockchain, but it's the most widespread. It's the original one that people really started using. I compare it to email is part of the internet, but it isn't the whole internet. Cryptocurrency is part of the blockchain and is a particular, each cryptocurrency has a particular blockchain. So that's comparable to today's ledger. Make sense?
Yep, makes all the sense in the world.
Okay. All right, so let's go back a few years, back to 2014, when actually you and I happened to attend a conference called Coins in the Kingdom, and we witnessed the first ever wedding that was put on a blockchain. and it was put on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Yes.
And that was at Coins in the Kingdom in Orlando. The couple was married by our good friend Jeffrey Tucker, and it was a really interesting experience.
Yes, I think that was a wonderful thing.
So it's a way to codify something that has happened, to make it immutable and put it on the blockchain.
Yeah, I think that was a key point in that wedding, because what they wanted to do was to say this is now in an immutable, cannot be changed ever record, that we were married, we did it this day here. Of course, it wasn't an official thing. Jeffrey Tucker made it a big point saying, I'm not authorized by any government to do it, but I can authorize you to just have a great time. They had already been married, by the way, in an official way, but this was kind of for fun. But I think, okay, it just shows that the permanency of the blockchain is really important. And Web 3.0 is really important on that.
Yes. And cryptocurrency in particular is bringing about tremendous freedom throughout the world. Again, think about this tremendous disruption. You and I attended Bitcoin 2022 in Miami earlier this year. And one of the most powerful panels that we heard from was the panel called Bitcoin is Freedom, moderated by Alex Gladstein. And we saw these amazing people tell their stories of how they had used cryptocurrency to increase their freedom, as well as they are activists and teaching others how to use cryptocurrency. In particular, Yeonmi Park escaped from North Korea, and through many treacherous ordeals was able to come to the United States. And so now she helps people using cryptocurrency in particular. And all three of these folks really talked about the emphasis of how cryptocurrency enables so much more freedom. Because right now, if someone's trying to escape from a bad situation in many parts of the world, they're trying to get across a border. Well, imagine if a woman is carrying money, just a woman in particular, carrying money, and she's trying to cross the border and bad guys get a hold of her. Well, nowadays women have to hide the money in their hair if they can. It's really bad. But with cryptocurrency and having a phone that they can easily access it, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yes, indeed. Oh, and El Salvador, you were mentioning that. What's going on in El Salvador now with Bitcoin?
Okay. So El Salvador is actually has made Bitcoin legal tender. It was the first country in the world to accept and to make Bitcoin legal tender throughout the country. And so this is really important. If you think about people sending money back to other countries, to their relatives in other countries, for example, El Salvador. Well, pre-cryptocurrency, they would send it to a Western Union type office. And the Western Union took huge fees, and someone walks out of the Western Union office with the cash, the fiat currency, while bad guys waiting around the corner to get their share. So the poor person who has gotten the money sent to them takes home less and less and less. But with cryptocurrency, money from phone to phone, and the bad guys and the third parties aren't in there to take such a huge cut of it. Anything you'd like to share there?
I think that's really breakthrough. What we see with crypto, and particularly Web3 and what's happening there, is this is power to the individual. Think of that mother, single mother in an inner city who's trying to support her children. She can use Bitcoin and it goes directly from one person to another. And if you use a little overlay that goes on top of Bitcoin called the Lightning Network, it makes for a much faster transmission, and it gives them the freedom, the power. I think that's the real beauty of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, is it's providing freedom. It's providing that live and let live style that we talk about so much here at Agorapreneurs. So the idea of living freely, voluntarily, and peacefully in Bitcoin really energizes that.
Yes. And one of the things that we don't think about in the Western world is the fact that billions of people around the world are unbanked. They don't have access to banking accounts. They don't have the same sort of financial access that we have. And so this is giving a lot more power to people in the developing world. Okay. All right, so let's move on from here. Okay, so let's take a step back and think back to the early 90s when, well, the internet was around a long time before that, mainly in government and educational settings where they were communicating. And I think email was a big part of what they did. But let's think back to Web 1 when browsers became available, such as Netscape or Explorer, those sorts of browsers, which gave common people like myself much more access to the internet. And that at that time, oh, how cool is this? I can look things up. And so it was very much a read mode of the Web 1, reading blogs and web pages. And Mark Andreessen is, he was the founder of Netscape. He says that the original sin of the internet is that there was no monetization. And again, thinking back to where it came from, government and education and the government funding it, it was actually illegal at that time, according to him, to monetize the internet. And so that caused a lot of problems. And some of those problems were what we deal with today: privacy, data collection of the users, data targeting of the users, third-party ads, and misaligned incentives. And what he and others say is that NFTs and the Web3 technologies can eliminate this original sin and make it so that we can do, so that it's not so dependent on monetizing the users. And so that's a real exciting aspect of Web3. Let's go to Web 2, read and write. So all the social medias, people could engage and interact more. But what we get, yes, so Web 2, we had centralized ownership. Privacy is a big issue. Again, these are things that carried over from Web 1. But with Web 3, we can read, write, build, and own. And so that makes a tremendous difference. Because it's decentralized, a lot of Web3, that's the goal, is most things will be decentralized, very much crypto infused, so a way to transact easily and without permission from banks, without fear of banks or other organizations closing down your access to money. It's an actionable, intelligent web and very much community focused. So I love these aspects of Web3. Are there any of those aspects that you are particularly excited about, Terry?
Yeah, Gina, I think particularly those are real important. Decentralized means there's no one central point where bad guys can attack and get all the money. They're in different places. This is the advantage of Bitcoin. It gives you the ability for a security mechanism that's been around for about 12 years now, as we're recording this, and it has been attacked many times, but never, ever successfully invaded. They can attack all they want, but Bitcoin is impervious to that because of the structure that it has. At least it's been that way so far. And we've seen it is really good. It's crypto infused. We've got the crypto there. Actionable, intelligent web, which means it's a whole lot better than in Web 1. And community focus. This is key. We're relying on the community. And I think that's a real key step in the whole thing.
Yes. Okay, so an example of read, write, build, own is, Terry, you did an interview. Why don't you tell folks a little bit about this interview and how you used it and how you monetized it in a way that was unique?
Yeah, this was one of those unique situations that happens every so often in life. I'm covering the Consumer Electronic Associations, Consumer Technology Association, I should say. And what they did, CES was the big event out in Las Vegas. And I got a request to do an interview with this gentleman who is the general manager of Alibaba.com. Works right there with Jack Ma. His name is Kyo Zhang, and it was his first ever English language interview. So their agency asked me to come in, and they were all looking over what I'm doing. And about 20 people, spoke Chinese and English and talking to me. And I just sat right across the table with him. We were talking. He thought it was great. We had a fun time. It was really good. He said, yes, let's do it with Terry. And so he told me that this was his first ever English language interview. They wanted it to be right. Well, that was nice. And the key is I was able to talk to him about what he and Jack Ma are doing with crypto, what they're studying, where they're looking at even at that time, and the idea of being able able to use crypto makes all the sense in the world, be able to use this in many different areas. Now, in China, they have made Bitcoin use and crypto illegal. So they're going to be falling behind. We see that the United States has now jumped ahead because we've been able to get some of the miners, the people that are creating the coins, some of the intelligentsia who are really smart in crypto coming over and being with the US. And that interview that I did there really helped because I also was able to monetize that and put it out on a device, a platform that we were using at the time that was able to pay you in crypto. So I was able to use that and monetize. That was kind of nice because people would see that and they go, oh, that's the head of Alibaba. Yeah, the head of Alibaba.com. And it worked. I want those of you listening to this, think about this and what you can do. And the way that you can use this is start monetizing what you're doing. With crypto, you can do that. If you're a content creator, or as Joe Polizzi and we like to say, a content entrepreneur, you can create content, set up the system so that people can then directly pay you. Kind of like you'd give a tip. You know, you go to a restaurant, it's a particularly good meal. The server really is exceptionally good. He or she goes out of their way to make you feel good. Think, I want to give them a little bit extra. So you do that. Well, on a podcast or on a YouTube channel or something that's done online, you can do that now with crypto. We're going to be talking about more of that here on Web 3.0 and Agorapreneurs, where we talk about these things. A lot of good stuff coming down the pike on that. Gina, it's pretty exciting, I think. What do you think? And Gina, we've lost your sound.
Yes, I think it's really exciting. And the concept that you just described, where people essentially leave a tip and that tip is converted to money, where they click like, and that it converts to money, is, I call it micro crowdfunding. And so that's just a term that I came up with, and use it for somebody's watching a video or they like a picture or something like that. But it's not just a like. The like translates into some form of value, either fiat or cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is certainly my preference.
Yep,
So,
and that's the real key. So as we see, there's a lot of potential there in that, and in many other ways too. This is a game changer for the world. It's empowering people who previously didn't have banks, didn't and still don't have banks, but they now can be their own bank with Bitcoin.
exactly. Well, now let's shift gears a little bit and talk about something that I'm very excited about. And that's not the Mona Lisa, it's the non-fungible tokens. People refer to them as NFTs, non-fungible tokens. And fungible is not a word that most people use a lot. So let's talk about what is what's fungible and what's not. So a great example that's used often is the Mona Lisa. So you see a picture right here. Now, this came from Wikipedia, Creative Commons. It's an image of the Mona Lisa. It is not that valuable. It's really, there's really no value to it at all, except just to look at it. But the value is in the original. And so that's what a non-fungible token enables a person to do, a content creator. So the person who created this beautiful work can digitize it and put it into a smart contract. Remember, we mentioned smart contracts in relationship to the couple that got married and put the contract on the blockchain. You can attach the image, and it can be an image, it can be a video, it can be audio, it can be text, it can be a number of different forms of media that is attached to the blockchain. So that's what a non-fungible token is, versus a fungible token would just be a dollar bill. It's easily interchangeable with another dollar bill, right? That makes sense?
Yep, makes a lot of sense.
Okay, so let's dig into that a little bit more. Why don't you take this part?
Okay, well, it's your presentation, but I know that we've got these slides look very familiar to me too, because I was able to use this in some other areas too. But the non-fungible tokens are transferable from one to another. And go ahead. You have the keyboard, so I don't have it there. And the nice thing about it, you own that. Much like you would own, say, a baseball card that you would buy from a famous baseball player. You've got that card, you own it, and you can then sell it and give it to someone else. And because it's blockchain registered authenticity, yeah, baby, this one is good. It makes sure that you know, and everyone knows because it's blockchain, it's public information and no one can change it. That's the real key of where the beauty comes with these. And it is changing our world entirely.
Well, speaking of changing the world, there's an artist known as Beeple that really took the world by storm when he put together into a single mosaic artworks that he had created over 5,000 days, and they were sold on auction. And this single new non-fungible token sold for, I think it was $69 million. And people said, what? Pictures of pictures, $69 million. And I can have a picture of it right here. But the original, this original mosaic on the blockchain was sold for $69 million. But this awakened the world to the power and the power of NFTs as valuable collectibles.
Yes, and the thing about that, it's $69 million. I don't know about those of you watching this, but where I grew up out in the country, we called that serious money. And then what happened is later in the year, this was back in 2021, it was purchased by someone else and sold for even higher. I believe it was 130 some million. I could be wrong on that. I'll have to check on that, but it was sold for even more. So you see, it's a matter of what people value. When people will say, well, is there intrinsic value that? Well, there's not intrinsic value in much of anything. A few things, food, yeah, and something that can help you move around, but it's always the value that someone attributes to that. And this is what NFTs are all about. Now, the other thing we got to mention, most NFTs, I'm going to agree with Gary V on this one as well as many others, most NFTs are going to go to zero. And people pay money and they will lose it. I think he said like 98% of them. I could say it might be even higher. So just be careful. But it's something that is changing. And right now, when you can build in use to it, actual application, then you've got a real powerful set of options there.
Yes. And that's the part of the NFTs that the way it's evolving, we call them utility NFTs that you and I are much more excited about, more excited than the art NFTs. So another example, very famous example of NFTs called the Bored Ape Yacht Club. And these are images of bored apes. And I think originally they were trading for around $400. And right before this last crypto slump, they were trading in the $200,000, $300,000 range. So tremendous value there because people said they were valuable, but that's part of value. Terry just mentioned Gary V, that's otherwise known as Gary Vaynerchuk, who has had tremendous success in social media. And he's been a real innovator in the NFT space as well, selling NFTs for a program he has called VCon, his Gary V VCon, the V conference. And also when he launched his latest book called 12 and a half, he was able to sell 1 million books in a 24-hour period, and he associated them with NFTs. So this was a very powerful marketing strategy. I love the fact that Gary explains it that using NFTs, it's almost like issuing an IPO for yourself or your product. In that case, it was his books. But if someone believes in you and believes in your company, your organization, rather than issuing stock, which as we know is a very complicated process, you can issue an NFT, which is still somewhat complicated, but it's much simpler. And then the folks who invest in your program, let's say they buy a ticket for your conference, or they buy a membership for your training, your ongoing training, or they buy a ticket to your online course. Well, it's more like they're becoming an owner to it. And that's the way I felt about, this is one of my NFTs. I call him Elvis, but this was associated with a program that Terry and I attended earlier this year in Phoenix called the CEX, or Creator Entrepreneur Exposition. I don't remember the exact terms of it, but it was Joe Polizzi's conference. And the way they set it up is you could pay fiat currency to purchase a ticket for, say, $900. But if you bought an NFT at that time, or what they called an NET, a never ending ticket, which means I can now attend every CEX conference that he hosts. And because of his history and track record, he's likely to host this again in the future, but there were no promises that he would do so. And I was able to get a 2-for-1. And so rather than paying, say, $1,600 or $1,700 for 2 tickets in fiat, I bought an NET for a little over $2,000. We were both able to attend, and now I have an asset. I have an asset that I can sell if I don't want to attend the conferences anymore. I have, and it gives that permission to use it forever. So I know you have pretty strong feelings on NETs as well, Terry. Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I think it's a beautiful concept, particularly again for the content creators, the content entrepreneurs, because what we did with Joe, we bought the never ending ticket. You bought one and I bought one as well. So now we both can go to these events that they have forever. For as long as we're alive, for as long as they're providing them, we can do that. Plus, in addition to that, they give extra benefits, like you get a chance now to meet the guest speaker backstage, or you get a chance to work with that guest speaker for something if you have the right number of NETs, the never-ending tickets. And you're able to do many other things. We have a private session, a private Zoom call with them, or you have a private gathering for only those that have NETs. Think about the possibilities for content creators. This changes the game. Oh, and then also, if you go, okay, I've been with this program for 5 years. It's good. I got value, but hey, I'm moving on. And for whatever reason, I don't need it anymore. You can sell it. So you got this NET, the never ending ticket. You can sell that to someone else and they would be able to purchase it. Now, let's suppose it goes up in value. Hey, you got all these services and you bought it for $1 or whatever it was, and now you're getting it for $2, hypothetically. Also, it could go the other way. You bought it for $1. Now it's only worth 50 cents or a dime, or maybe it completely died, but you still got all of the benefits of being part of that community. So for us, we looked at it and we thought, okay, we trust Joe. I've followed his work through the years. I've really liked what he has to say. And I believe that he is going to continue to create the kind of content that we like. He'll also create and continue to create the kind of community that we really value. That is very, very important. And this is what content creators really need to know about regarding Web 3.0 and the NFTs, the non-fungible tokens.
Yes, I agree completely. And it's just a great feeling of ownership in the success of this conference. Another way that NFTs are being used throughout the world is to register the rights to ownership to real estate. This was the first home in the United States that was sold as an NFT, and this was fairly recent. And if you've ever had title problems, title challenges to property that you own, then you can appreciate that an NFT might be a better way to register that property. Several colleges and universities are issuing their diplomas as NFTs. And this is wonderful because in the future, you're going to be able to easily display your certificates, your diplomas, and those sorts of things, which are the real deal from that issuing institution on your NFT display case. Essentially right now, that's most people use a tool called MetaMask to display their NFTs, but there will be other tools that come along that allow you to display them, much like your LinkedIn resume right now. Your LinkedIn profile showcases where you went to school and other things. Then one day people will be able to look at your NFTs. One thing that I know, especially the younger generation is going to be really excited about, and people of all ages really, is what's called play to earn. So think about all the hours that people have invested over the years in playing different kinds of games, online games. Well, what if you play those games and you're able to earn money? So this has been out there for a while, and the technology is getting better and easier. And it's a lot of people are going to have this as their full-time careers. Some do now, but more will, because they're going to be able to play to earn. So this is called Axie, And this is one of those services that allows you to do that. One of the advisors that we work with as part of our community, and he's going to be a guest on an upcoming challenge that we have soon, is a fellow who has helped Sylvester Stallone launch his own cryptocurrency here, excuse me, NFT, not cryptocurrency. There is some terminology here, creator coins versus social tokens versus NFTs. And what we're talking about here are NFTs. And that's what Sylvester Stallone has creating. And you can see all about it at Planet Sly. Okay, so here's another way that the blockchain is being used and the NFTs can be used. And let's say that you want to buy a diamond, say from Tiffany's, but you don't want to buy a blood diamond. So apparently there was some controversy about Beyonce having a blood diamond. And so I met representatives at Tiffany's a few years ago at a blockchain conference, and that's exactly what they were pursuing. They really wanted to have that entire supply chain documented on the blockchain so that they could prove the authenticity and the source of their jewelry, especially and including diamonds. Another way that NFTs may be used in the future would be to register a car. So let's say that you buy a car. This looks a lot like an old 280Z that I had back in the early 80s, one of my favorite cars. And so let's say that that car is registered to a specific NFT. Well, the servicing of it can be tracked. And let's say that the dealership that sold me that car had a small piece of the action for every time that car was traded and sold. Well, they're going to be more motivated to make sure the car is serviced well. They may even throw in free servicing for the cars so that it'll have more value. And I recognize that this is something that I didn't mention earlier. One of the beautiful and powerful things about registering the art or the product or whatever on the blockchain is that as it's being resold, the originator, the creator, can have a share of it. So let's say, and right now, that doesn't happen. Someone is an artist, they become famous later, they sold their original artworks for $200, but now somebody's bought it and they're selling it for $20,000 or $200,000. Well, the original creator gets none of that. But with NFTs, the original creator will get that. And so we talk about in this world that we're going to take the starving out of starving artist, which is very exciting. So all of this, well, all right, Gina, it's a bunch of zeros and ones and bytes and all kinds of fancy terminology, but let's just take it back up to the 30,000-foot view. What's important about this technology, and think about your medieval relatives, is that it adds more peace, more ability to do what you want to do voluntarily. It adds more freedom to your life. So again, think back to that medieval peasant and bring it forward, that this is going to enable you to do things that we can't even imagine right now. I think about the changes that the internet has brought about to our world. And it's just, if you had told me the way that our world would be changed back in the early 90s, 30 plus years ago, I might have believed it, but I couldn't imagine all the things that it's enabled us to do. And that's what we're going to see with Web3.
Yes, indeed. Well, Web3 is already changing our world. It's got enormous opportunities. And Gina, I appreciate you sharing that presentation that you did for HBS and letting us see what's available, because there's a lot of good that's out there. And those of you watching this, you're watching this right now and you're wondering, okay, it sounds good. Gina had some good points there. You want to take action. Here's what I would recommend. We're not making any financial recommendations here. Zero. We're not qualified to, and we're not doing it. You got to do your own damn research, as our friend Brian Fanzo says. So you've got to do that. But we are making strong educational recommendation. We recommend that you start studying that, learn what's going on, go over to the various sites, follow us here on Agorapreneurs, and you'll see it. And we've got some other good things coming your way that you're going to find out about in a while. So stay tuned here. Gina and I will be doing a lot of this. And matter of fact, we'll be doing a lot more of these videos together is what we're looking forward to. Gina, I appreciate you joining us today and being here with us and sharing that slide presentation you did. Any final words before I know you have to get going for some more things going on before you leave us?
Well, I'd just like to say that there's just amazing opportunities here. And one of the things that we'll be doing is leading different events. I was mentioning earlier that we have a challenge coming up. It's sort of like a summit where we're bringing in some world-class experts who are going to be talking about Web3. And if you go to ginachallenge.com, you'll be able to find the latest challenge that we're doing. And no matter what the name of it is, we have different names of challenges, but the ginachallenge.com will always be forwarded to the latest one that we're doing. And that's a great way to plug into our system as well.
Very good. Well, Gina, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate you being here. And for those of you that are watching this, think about what you can do with this. The world is changing rapidly. Yeah, we know that. We've heard it so many times. But here's how you can get ahead of what's going on. So you'll be out there. Get involved in this right now. In a way, it's kind of like if I said, hey, there's this thing called the internet. It's 1992, and they're calling it the information super. I think it's going to go somewhere. You need to start studying it. You need to get involved in it. People are going, oh, I can't do that. I remember I was there. Oh, I'm not going to use that email. What's email? I'll use good old mail. It's always been here. That's what we'll do. Obviously, our world changed dramatically. Those who were able to grab hold of what happens were able to make some substantial changes. You should be one of those people. So stay in touch with us. We want to hear from you. Please subscribe to this because that way you get a chance to find out more about what's going on when new events come out. I'm Terry Brock for Agorapreneurs. Thanks for being here today, and we'll look forward to seeing you again. Hey, don't stop now. We've got a lot more videos out there for you about freedom and liberty, living the life of an entrepreneur who believes in live and let live. Matter of fact, here's a way you can make a positive difference in the world. Like this video, subscribe to the channel. That lets the algorithms know, those wacky algorithms know that, hey, people like this kind of thing of live and let live and doing it in a peaceful way. Thanks for being here with us, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.